Hey there, gravel grinders. This is Paul, and wanted to give you a quick tutorial type of thing on Ride with GPS. A lot of the routes that we create and share are used on Ride with GPS. You can create a free account on the site to download files to your GPS unit or to create cue cards if you don't have a GPS unit. So once you open up the Ride with GPS link, so I'm going to just go to the post I created tonight. You'll notice that the URL for Ride with GPS just uses a specific number for each of the routes that are created. So they're distinct numbers. So I clicked on the one ending in 57, and you can see that in the URL up here. This is the 26-mile fat bike route that we're going to be doing on Saturday, and to send it to your GPS unit, you just click on the export to TCX file, and 50 meters is a pretty good distance for the turn notification. Anything less kind of is too soon or too quick before the turn. Then you would just click download. There's instructions that you can follow as far as sending it to your Wahoo or your Garmin device. So if you don't have a GPS and you do want to print the cue sheet, but you want a slimmer cue sheet, you're going to select this third option under More called Print Map and Cue PDF. So even though you may not want the cue sheet or the map, that's the option that you want. So under General Options, it shows the letter size, the PDF title if you want, and then you have two check boxes, one to include a map, which I currently don't have checked because I don't want to print a map. I don't think the Ride with GPS maps that print are very useful, but anyway. So include the cue sheet is selected, and then you can choose the numbers of rows and columns that you want, the font size. I just leave it set at that, and it seems to work pretty well. If you're going to do a longer route, you can play with those settings and change the font size. One time I changed it smaller, and it was really difficult to read. So I would recommend leaving it at 12. Your eyes are used to that, and when you're out with sweat in your eyes, your sunglasses on, sunscreen, whatever, it's kind of hard to see everything if it's smaller. So these two settings here are checked. Abbreviate cues changes the left into an L or the right into an R, and then showing the labels of the columns. You can, after a while, you can turn that off as well. It saves a little bit of room at the top of the sheet. Then you have the cue sheet order. You can just pick these, slide them around, and they move the column order. So, and then you can turn them on and off by clicking the checkbox. So, cue sheet number, that would be the number of the row. So that I don't select if I'm riding by myself. If I'm riding with a bunch of other people, perhaps I might get woozy on part of the ride and lose my track, and then want to know, hey buddy, what turn is next? And they could just say, oh, we're on turn 32, and then that would be the cue sheet number you would look at, and it would say 180th Street, for instance. So, so that's what that one is about. The distance from the start, that is the, obviously how far from the start you are. That's helpful, especially if you have distance from the start is helpful, especially if you stay on course. If you deviate from the course, then you kind of need to know how far off course you've gotten and be able to, do some quick math that way. Distance from last is how far from the previous turn is the next turn. That gives you an idea if it's, 1 mile or 5 miles, might give you an idea of, how far you have to make it until there's help or until there's asphalt or a turn or something like that. Generally, that doesn't help me because I can do quick math in my head and see that, 17 miles minus 14 miles is 3. So I have 3 miles on this leg. The label, I always have that on. It's nice to know if there's a food stop, a water stop, some other special kind of label there in the notes in the label queue, and then any kind of notes that are associated with that queue. That on this route that I'm going to create, or this queue sheet that I'm going to create, there are no notes attached to it. But say you were doing an event and you wanted to create custom notes for yourself. Something like, 3 of 3 hills, or convenience store ahead, or watch out for, the stop sign at the highway, something like that. You can copy the route file to your own account and then create your own notes on the queues. And then distance to next would be kind of similar to distance from last. Over here we have the map, which I don't have selected, and then down at the bottom you click submit to create the PDF, and then I'll just show you what the results are here. So here's the results. You can see the column headings carry over. They split it into 2 columns, pretty much even, and then so distance, the type of event. They have arrows, and I especially like arrows, and then I especially like the abbreviated turn name, right or left. So unfortunately they don't abbreviate continue, so it does take up more space. And then you can see that some directions or events on the queue sheet have longer terms to them. So traffic circle, or a street that has 2 names, on it. And the only way to make that shorter is if you were to copy the file to your own account and make custom queues that way. So this puts it in a nice compact sheet, and you can put that into like a Banjo Brothers queue sheet bag that has a plastic cover on it to keep it out of the rain. It's handy for just, flipping over left and right. You only have to turn it every, 15, 20 miles type of thing. So it's pretty handy to use this function within RWGPS. Hope that helps.